Christmas night descended on the desert with an impossible gift: snow. 3 miles out, the target compound glowed white-hot against frozen sand. Below her position, 9 operators moved like shadows through the dunes. Her radio crackled. Commander Jack Reeves, call sign Prophet, gave the signal. Overwatch status. Clear, she transmitted. No movement. Thermal shows 12 inside. Weather window closing. The abnormal snowstorm had rolled in 6 hours earlier. Meteorology called it a once-in-50-years event. Command called it perfect cover. Sarah called it wrong. Her gut had been screaming since insertion. The intelligence was too clean. The weather too convenient. The timing too precise. But missions ran on orders, not instinct. Through her scope, she tracked Prophet's team as they reached the compound wall. Thermal imaging showed the hostages, 2 American contractors clustered in the northeast room. Guards positioned exactly where intelligence predicted. Too perfect. Reach in 3 minutes. Sarah adjusted her position, settling deeper into the shallow depression she'd carved from frozen sand. The M110 sniper rifle felt like an extension of her body after 8 years carrying it. 2 confirmed kills at distances that made training instructors revise their manuals. Snow accumulated on her ghillie suit, nature's camouflage, improving her concealment. But the storm interfered with thermals, created visibility problems, generated radio static. Her unease deepened. 1 minute, Prophet transmitted. Sarah swept her scope across the perimeter one final time. Nothing. Just desert snow darkness. Then she saw it. Heat signature 200 meters south. Then another. 5 more. Enemy reinforcements emerging from concealed positions the intelligence never mentioned. Contact. South, multiple hostiles. Her voice cut through the radio. Abort breach, but Prophet's team had already blown the door. Hell erupted simultaneously from 3 directions. The compound's interior lights blazed on killing night vision. Automatic weapons fire poured from windows. The 12 heat signatures Sarah had counted multiplied to 30. Ambush. Sarah switched to combat mode. First target dropped at 847 meters, the hostile operating the mounted machine gun. Second target at 921 meters, squad leader directing reinforcements. Third target through a window, the shooter about to flank Prophet's entry team. Her rifle barked precisely, methodically. Each round found its mark. But there were too many. Overwatch, where pinned, Prophet's voice strained but controlled. Casualties. Need immediate extraction. Negative on extract command, responded. Weathers collapsed. Birds can't fly. Sarah kept firing. The enemy had located her muzzle flash despite the suppressor. Rounds began impacting around her position. Team moving to rally point, Prophet transmitted. Overwatch, cover our withdrawal. Copy. Sarah shifted targets, dropping hostiles attempting pursuit. Her training automated the process. Breathe, aim, squeeze, chamber, next round. Repeat. Then her world exploded. The RPG hit 15 feet away. Not close enough to kill, close enough to shred. Shrapnel tore through her left side. The rifle flew from her hands. Snow and sand and blood mixed in her mouth. She couldn't hear, couldn't see, couldn't breathe. Training cut through shock. She touched her chest, confirming the plate carrier had caught most of it. Her fingers came away wet. Left side compromised. Right arm functional. Legs responsive. She retrieved the rifle with her good arm. Overwatch down, she managed through gritted teeth. Still operational. Static answered. She checked her radio. Antenna sheared off by shrapnel. Enemy forces were converging on her position. She could see muzzle flashes advancing through the snow. Maybe a dozen hostiles moving with tactical precision. Sarah pulled herself into a combat crouch. Blood soaked through her fatigues. The world tilted, then steadied. She dropped 2 advancing hostiles, bought herself 90 seconds. Time to move. She low-crawled south, leaving a blood trail, the snow mercifully concealed. 50 meters. 100. Behind her, confused shouting as the enemy reached her original position and found it empty. She keyed her backup radio, the emergency frequency. Static. Then Prophet's voice crackled through, distant and broken. Untenable. 3 casualties. Surrounded. "This is Overwatch," Sarah transmitted. "I'm mobile." "What's your position?" Long silence. Then Command's voice. "Not Prophet's. Overwatch status report. Wounded but operational. Enemy force approximately 40 strong. Need immediate. Your position is compromised. Team is withdrawing to secondary extraction." Copy. "What's my rally point?" Another silence. Longer this time. Prophet's voice came back, barely audible through interference. "Sarah." She understood before he finished. Team movement compromised. Command's voice cut back in replacing Prophet's. 3 casualties require immediate medical evacuation. Enemy force pursuing. Current assessment retrieval of Overwatch would result in total mission failure and multiple additional casualties. Sarah pressed her hand against her side, blood warm against frozen skin. She'd trained for this scenario. Every SEAL had. Operational necessities sometimes required impossible choices. She'd just never expected to be on this side of it. Understood. She transmitted, voice steady. "Professional to the end." Prophet broke protocol, emotion cracking through. "Sarah, I'm sorry. There's no other. Leave her." Command again, cold calculus. "We move now." Through the snow, Sarah heard helicopter rotors. The storm had broken just enough for emergency extraction. They were leaving. Protocol dictated she activate her emergency beacon, make recovery easier if they came back. But the beacon would also guide enemy forces straight to her position. She left it off. The helicopter sounds faded. Sarah laid in the snow, bleeding alone with 40 hostiles hunting her in hostile territory. No extraction coming, no cavalry riding to the rescue. Most people would despair. Sarah started planning. The SAAL creed didn't include surrender. Didn't include giving up. It included one relevant instruction: adapt and overcome. She conducted self-assessment. Left side, 2 pieces of shrapnel embedded, but not life-threatening. Blood loss significant, but manageable. Combat effectiveness reduced, but viable. Assets: 1 M110 rifle with 4 magazines remaining. Sidearm with 2 magazines. 3 grenades. Field medical kit. Water and rations for 48 hours. Desert survival training that had earned her top marks. And 40 enemy soldiers who thought she was dead or dying. Wrong on both counts. Sarah pulled emergency gauze from her kit, packed her wounds with practiced efficiency. The pain helped clear her mind. She'd spent 2 years training for Hell Week, had survived conditions designed to break humans. This was just another test. Except the instructors weren't coming to pull her out when she reached her limit. She studied the terrain through her scope. The enemy had established a perimeter around the compound, expected her to move away from their position. Standard tactical doctrine: wounded operator would retreat to a defensive position, wait for rescue. Sarah began moving toward the compound. Sometimes survival meant doing exactly what the enemy didn't expect. The snow was both ally and enemy. It concealed her movement, but also her blood trail. It muffled sound, but made tracks. It provided cover, but threatened hypothermia. Sarah moved in 15-minute intervals. Crawl. Observe. Rest. Repeat. Her training had drilled patience into muscle memory. Rushing got you killed. Careful got you home. Except home wasn't waiting for her anymore. She pushed the thought away. Emotions were luxury items. She had none to spare. Through her scope, she observed enemy search patterns. Poorly trained spreading too wide, making noise. Militia, not professional military. Dangerous through numbers and local knowledge, not discipline. She could work with that. First priority, neutralize her blood loss. She found a small depression, dug deeper, created a hide site. Used her remaining medical supplies to properly treat the wounds. The shrapnel would stay, removing it, risked worse bleeding. Second priority, water.
Snow provided that.
She used body heat to melt small amounts, rationing carefully. Third priority, staying alive through the night. Temperature was dropping. Single digits, heading towards 0. Her cold weather gear helped, but blood loss undermined her body's heat regulation. She began shivering, the involuntary response, wasting energy she couldn't spare. Sarah remembered her survival instructor's words, cold doesn't kill seals. Giving up does. She'd never been good at giving up. Hours passed. The enemy search gradually contracted back toward the compound. They'd concluded she was either dead or had escaped the area. Either way, no longer an immediate threat. They were half right. Sarah waited until 300 hours, when human alertness hit its lowest point. Then she began moving again, not away from the compound, toward it. The enemy had established a command post in a building adjacent to the original target. She could see heat signatures through her thermal scope. Officers, communications equipment, intelligence materials, and beyond that, 6 vehicles. An idea began forming. Reckless. Probably suicidal. Absolutely necessary. Because Sarah realized something her command hadn't. This wasn't over. The ambush had been planned. The intelligence compromised. Someone had set up her team, and that command post held answers. Dawn broke over frozen desert like a wound. Sarah had positioned herself on a ridge 800 meters from the command post. Close enough for accurate fire, far enough to avoid detection. The perfect sniper position. She'd been awake for 36 hours. Blood loss made her lightheaded. Dehydration threatened cognitive function. The shrapnel in her side sent lightning through her nervous system with every movement. She settled her eye to the scope and went to work. The first shot took out the communications antenna. Not lethal, but it severed their connection to higher command. They were isolated now, just like her. The second shot disabled their heaviest vehicle, the one mounting a machine gun. Rounds through the engine block, precise destruction. The third shot killed the generator. No communications. No heavy weapons. No power. Panic rippled through the compound. Soldiers poured out of buildings seeking the shooter they'd assumed was dead. They fired blindly into the desert, wasting ammunition. Sarah didn't waste anything. Fourth shot the officer coordinating the response. He dropped mid-sentence, radio falling from his hand. Fifth shot the soldier reaching for that radio. Sixth shot the next soldier trying to rally the others. She was teaching them a lesson. Being hunted was worse than dying. By noon, the compound had descended into chaos. Half the enemy force had fled. The remainder barricaded themselves inside buildings, afraid to move, afraid to stay. Sarah's ammunition was running low. 3 magazines left. 43 rounds. She'd need to make them count. Her radio crackled unexpectedly. The backup frequency weak, but audible. Any station this net, this is Prophet Actual. How copy? Her hand moved to the transmit button, then stopped. Prophet's team was safe. Extracted. Her sacrifice had accomplished that. But calling them back would put them in danger again. Would risk everything she'd already given. She listened to Prophet's voice repeat the call, growing more desperate with each transmission. Then quietly she keyed her radio. Overwatch to Prophet. I'm still in the fight. Dead silence on the net. Then Prophet's voice, barely controlled. Say again, your last. I said. Enemy force neutralized approximately 60%. I need immediate extraction with combat air support.
Sarah.
Prophet's voice cracked. Your status wounded but operational. I've got work to finish. You coming or not? This time Command's voice came through different from the cold calculator who'd ordered her abandonment. Overwatch, we're launching immediate rescue operation. Hold your position. Negative, Sarah responded. I'm not holding anything. I'm taking that command post. Sarah had learned patience in the desert. Not the enforced patience of training where instructors watched and evaluated. Real patience born from necessity. The kind that understood time could be weaponized. She waited until 1400 hours. The sun reached its apex heat, shimmering off sand despite the snow. They thought she was far away, picking them off from distance. Sarah was 200 meters from their perimeter. She'd closed the distance during their panic, using their fear as cover. Now she switched weapons, setting the rifle aside, drawing her sidearm. Close quarters work now. The command post sat in the compound's center, 3 guards outside. Officers inside, studying maps, trying to coordinate a response to a ghost. Sarah pulled 1 grenade from her vest. Her survival instructor had taught her about calculated risks. Sometimes living means being willing to die, he'd said. SEALs don't bet on surviving. They bet on completing the mission. She pulled the pin. The explosion shredded the command post's front wall. Guards scattered, disoriented. Sarah moved through the smoke, sidearm, steady training, overriding pain and exhaustion. 3 shots. 3 guards down. She breached the doorway, clearing corners with mechanical precision. 2 officers inside reached for weapons. She shot them both before they could aim. The 3rd officer raised his hands. Sarah kept her weapon trained on him while she scanned the room. Maps covered 1 wall, showing positions she recognized. Her team's insertion route. Their extraction point. Every detail of an operation supposed to be classified. This wasn't luck or good intelligence. This was betrayal. She photographed everything with her phone's camera, documenting evidence. The officer watched, fear replacing calculation in his eyes. Who gave you this information? She asked in Arabic, her accent perfect from 2 years of language training. He shook his head. Sarah didn't torture. Didn't need to. She simply waited, weapon steady, while gunfire erupted outside. His soldiers regrouping, closing in. You have 30 seconds before they breach this room, she said calmly. I'll be gone. You'll be here. They'll see these photographs missing. They'll know someone talked. They'll assume it was you. 20 seconds of silence. Then he started talking. The name he gave made Sarah's blood freeze. Not an enemy agent. Not a foreign operative. Someone on her own side. Sarah exited through the back wall 30 seconds before the enemy stormed the front entrance. She'd rigged her last 2 grenades to the door handle. The explosion bought her 60 more seconds. Enough time to reach the ridgeline. Prophet's voice crackled through her radio. "Overwatch, this is Prophet. Mark your position." Negative on marking position, Sarah transmitted. "Enemy force still active. I need you to target the compound itself." Silence. Then command Overwatch clarify request. "Airstrike. Danger close. I have intelligence that proves operational security breach. This entire ambush was orchestrated from inside. The evidence is in that command post. I need it destroyed before anyone can sanitize it." Another pause. "Overwatch, that's a serious accusation. I have photographs, documented evidence, and a name." Sarah transmitted the encrypted file. "Check my phone's upload. Then make the call." 15 seconds passed. Sarah used them to reach a deep gully, putting hard cover between herself and the coming firestorm. Command's voice returned different now. "Urgent. Strike package authorized. Clear the area." "Already clear," Sarah responded. The F-18 came in low subsonic, nearly invisible against the afternoon glare. 2 bombs detached fell with terrible precision. The compound ceased to exist. Sarah felt the shockwave roll over her position, heard the thunder of modern warfare. When she looked up, smoke rose in a column that could be seen for miles. Job finished. She keyed her radio. "Overwatch, ready for extraction." Copy. Prophet responded. 7 minutes. Sarah allowed herself to sit back against rock weapon across her lap. Adrenaline was fading, leaving pain and exhaustion in its wake. The wounds in her side pulsed with each heartbeat. She'd survived. Not through luck. Not through miracle. Through training, determination, and the absolute refusal to quit that defined every SEAL. She heard the helicopters before she saw them. 2 Black Hawks fast and low with Apache gunships providing overwatch. The lead helicopter touched down 50 meters away. Prophet jumped out before it fully landed, running toward her position. He stopped 3 feet away, staring at her like seeing a ghost. "Sarah." She stood, ignoring the pain meeting his eyes. "We have a traitor in the chain of command." This was an assassination attempt. Prophet's face hardened. Sarah told him the name the enemy officer had given her. Prophet's expression went from shock to fury. "That son of a later, Sarah. Right now, I need a medic, and you need to secure that evidence. If word gets out about what I found, someone will try to bury it." He nodded, then keyed his radio. "Actual to all elements, we have a priority intel package. Lock down all communications. No one transmits anything until we're back at base." 2 SEALs reached Sarah, supporting her weight. She let them, her legs finally giving out after 48 hours of impossible endurance. As they loaded her into the helicopter, Sarah looked back at the smoking ruins of the compound. Snow was beginning to fall again, nature reclaiming the battlefield. Christmas was over, but the war had just begun. 24 hours later, Sarah woke in a military hospital in Germany. The surgery had taken 6 hours. 2 pieces of shrapnel removed internal bleeding-controlled wounds, closed with precision that would minimize scarring. Modern military medicine performing miracles that would have been impossible a generation ago. Prophet sat in a chair beside her bed, eyes closed, exhausted. Sarah's movement woke him. He straightened immediately, professional mask sliding into place. Then it cracked, emotion breaking through. Sarah, I don't, she interrupted. You made the right call. Got the team out. That's what mattered. The intelligence officer who compromised the mission has been arrested, Prophet said. Your evidence was conclusive. He'd been selling information to the highest bidder for 2 years. Sarah absorbed that. 2 years. How many operations had been compromised? How many operators endangered? How many others, she asked. Prophet's silence was answer enough. The official report, Sarah pressed. List you as K, initially then updated to W, after your rescue. Standard language about enemy contact, successful extraction despite heavy casualties. And the part where I single-handedly neutralized an enemy compound while supposedly dead Prophet almost smiled. Classified. Above, top secret. The fewer people who know what you accomplished, the safer you are. The traitor had connections. We don't know how deep this goes. Sarah understood. She'd uncovered something larger than a single corrupt intelligence officer. The investigation was just beginning. When can I return to duty? She asked. Doctors say 6 months, minimum. 3 months, Sarah countered. This time, Prophet did smile. I told the Admiral you'd say that. He's already approved accelerated rehabilitation. But Sarah, the smile faded. You don't have to prove anything. What you did out there. No one's questioning your capabilities. I'm not trying to prove anything, Sarah replied. I'm trying to finish what we started. Prophet nodded slowly. The team wants to visit. When you're ready, send them in. Over the next hour, 7 SEALs filed through her room. Some said nothing, just gripped her hand. Others couldn't stop talking, telling her stories she'd already heard, filling silence with nervous energy. Each one carried guilt. She could see it in their eyes, hear it in their voices. They'd left her behind. And she'd saved them anyway. The last visitor was Lieutenant Marcus Chen, the team's combat medic. He'd been one of the casualties taken shrapnel in the initial ambush. He sat beside her bed, studying her with professional assessment. You should be dead, he said bluntly. Blood loss exposure, untreated shrapnel wounds, physical exertion beyond normal human limits. You should be dead. Sorry to disappoint, Sarah replied. Chen shook his head. Not disappointed. Amazed. I've been ASEAL medic for 12 years. I've seen what the human body can do when pushed. You just redefined the limits. He pulled something from his pocket. A small pin, unofficial, but recognized throughout the SEAL community. A trident with a single star. This belonged to my grandfather, Chen said quietly. He earned it at Normandy, carried it through 3 wars. He told me to give it to someone who understood what it meant to be the last one standing. He placed it on her bedside table. You weren't the last one standing, Sarah protested. You all made it out. Because you were, Chen replied simply. Keep it. You earned it. 3 months later, Sarah returned to active duty. Physical rehabilitation had been brutal. Worse than Hell Week in some ways. At least in training she'd been whole. Now she had to rebuild damaged tissue, retrain muscle memory, overcome the body's natural fear of pushing past injury. She attacked it with the same relentless focus she'd brought to survival in the desert. Her first day back, Prophet pulled her aside. We have a situation. Sarah waited. The investigation into the intelligence leak uncovered a network, 12 compromised officers. But one got away. Intelligence indicates he's fled to a compound in the Hindu Kush Mountains. Pakistan border. Heavily fortified. You want him alive? Sarah guessed. Alive and talking. He has information about foreign intelligence services that have penetrated our networks. But Sarah, this is voluntary. After what happened, when do we deploy? She interrupted. 24 hours later, Sarah was back in position. Different desert, same mission, Overwatch. The target compound sat in a narrow valley 3 clicks from her position. Her M110 was dialed in, wind calculations, complete range precisely measured. This time, the team had backup plans for the backup plans. Air support on standby. Quick reaction force positioned nearby. Communications redundancy built into every level. They'd learned from the Christmas ambush. Prophet's voice came through her earpiece. Overwatch target is mobile. Preparing to evacuate by helicopter. Sarah acquired the target through her scope. The traitor who'd sold out her team, who'd nearly gotten them all killed, was crossing the compound toward a helicopter. Range, 847 meters. Nearly 2 miles. Wind gusting 15 to 20 knots. Elevation difference 600 meters. Temperature affecting air density below freezing. An impossible shot by conventional standards. Sarah had made her reputation on impossible shots. Overwatch to Prophet. I have the shot. Negative Overwatch. Too far. Wait for the team. He'll be airborne in 30 seconds. This is the only chance. Silence on the net. Command calculating odds, weighing options. Sarah didn't wait for permission. She'd already done the math, made the calculations. Adjusted for wind distance, temperature, the Earth's rotation. Every variable accounted for, compensated for, factored into the equation. She exhaled slowly, heart rate dropping to 50 beats per minute. The scope's crosshairs settled on the target's center mass. The world narrowed to trigger pressure and breathing. She squeezed. The bullet left the barrel at 750 feet per second. It traveled for 3.8 seconds, covering nearly 2 miles, fighting wind and gravity every inch of the journey. Through her scope, Sarah watched the target collapse, struck in the right shoulder. Non-lethal. Precisely as intended. Target down, she transmitted calmly. Non-lethal hit. He's alive. Prophet's team secured the target 3 minutes later. By the time Sarah reached the compound, medics had stabilized him for transport. The traitor looked up at her, recognition and fear mixing in his eyes. You, he whispered. You were supposed to be dead. Sarah crouched beside him. Navy SEALs don't die easy. We just come back. 6 months after the Christmas mission, Sarah sat in a debriefing room at Naval Special Warfare Command. The investigation had concluded. 12 corrupt officers in custody. Foreign intelligence networks exposed. Operational security overhauled. The damage had been extensive but contained. Admiral James Bradshaw entered the room, 3 stars gleaming on his uniform. Sarah stood at attention. At ease, Lieutenant. He sat studying her with the same intensity he'd once used evaluating her for SEAL training. I've been reviewing your performance over the past year. Sarah waited. The shot you made in the Hindu Kush is now being used to train advanced snipers. 847 meters with a non-lethal hit. It's been analyzed, discussed, and generally declared impossible by everyone who hasn't seen the video proof. I had good conditions, Sarah replied. Bradshaw almost smiled. The conditions were terrible. Wind gusting 20 knots, extreme range, moving target preparing to board a helicopter. But that's not why I called you here. He pulled a folder from his briefcase. What you did on Christmas night has been classified at the highest levels. But within the SEAL community, stories have circulated about an operator left for dead who not only survived but single-handedly neutralized an enemy force. Sir, I was following training protocols. Training doesn't account for what you did, Bradshaw interrupted gently. Training prepares you for survival. What you demonstrated was something else. An absolute refusal to accept defeat. A commitment to the mission that transcended personal survival. He opened the folder. Inside was a single metal bronze with a blue ribbon. The bronze star with Valor Bradshaw said quietly, "For heroic achievement in connection with operations against an armed enemy." The official citation will remain classified. But I wanted you to know that what you accomplished has been recognized at the highest levels. Sarah stared at the metal emotions she'd suppressed for months, threatening to break through.
Something else.
I'm recommending you for a new position. Training instructor at the Naval Special Warfare Center. Future SEALs need to learn from someone who's lived the creed, not just memorized it. Sir, I'm still operational. You are. And you'll remain operational. But training duty rotates with field deployment. You'll have both. And Sarah. He met her eyes. The next generation needs to know what's possible when everything seems impossible. Later that evening, Prophet's team gathered at a bar near the base. Unofficial celebration off the record, just operators sharing time together. Someone proposed a toast. Then another. Stories were told, embellished, argued over. The Christmas mission became legend details, growing with each retelling. Sarah sat quietly listening, occasionally correcting the worst exaggerations. Prophet sat beside her. You know, they're going to keep telling that story for decades. Half of it's not even accurate, Sarah replied. Doesn't matter. What matters is what it represents. That we don't leave people behind. That SEALs finish the mission. That when everything goes wrong, we find a way. Sarah considered that. The night she'd been abandoned, she'd felt betrayal, anger, fear. But Prophet had made the only call possible. Had saved his team. And in doing so, had given her the chance to prove what SEALs were capable of. You made the right decision, she said quietly. Getting the team out. That was the mission. Prophet nodded slowly. Doesn't mean it didn't haunt me every second until we found you alive. Then we're even. I was pretty motivated to stay alive. They sat in comfortable silence watching their team celebrate. These men had trained together, fought together, nearly died together. The bond was stronger than family, deeper than friendship. It was the reason Sarah had refused to quit in that frozen desert. Not because of duty or honor or reputation, because SEALs didn't leave each other behind, even when they had to. 1 year after Christmas, Sarah stood before a class of 30 SEAL candidates, all of them having survived the initial screening, all of them believing they understood what being a SEAL meant. They didn't. Not yet. Today, we're discussing survival psychology, she began. Specifically, what happens when your backup plan fails, your team can't reach you, and you're alone in hostile territory. A hand raised. Young kid, maybe 22, eyes still bright with idealism. Mom, has that ever actually happened? Sarah smiled slightly. Yes. She told them the story. Not all of it, some details remained classified. But enough. The ambush. The wounds. The abandonment. The survival. The counterattack. The class listened in absolute silence. What you need to understand, Sarah continued, is that survival isn't about being lucky. It's about being prepared, being adaptable, and absolutely refusing to quit. When your body screams at you to stop, when your mind tells you it's impossible, when every rational voice says to surrender, that's when SEALs dig deeper. Another hand. Ma'am, what was the hardest part? Sarah considered. Hearing leave her through the radio. knowing my team had to abandon me to survive, understanding that the right tactical decision felt like betrayal. How did you deal with that? I remembered why I became ASCAA. Not for recognition, not for glory. To be part of something larger than myself. To know that when everything goes wrong, I can make it right. That mission doesn't end just because circumstances change. She paused, meeting each candidate's eyes. Some of you won't make it through training. That's expected. But those of you who do need to understand something fundamental. Being ASCAL means accepting impossible missions, operating in impossible conditions, and achieving impossible results. It means understanding that can't doesn't exist in our vocabulary. After class, a senior instructor pulled her aside. Commander Thomas Wright, 25 years in the team's multiple combat deployments. That story you told, he said. The Christmas mission. Sarah waited. I've heard versions of it from at least a dozen sources. Guys who were there, guys who heard it secondhand, guys who swear they know someone who knows someone. And every version is different. Stories change in the telling, Sarah replied. They do. But the core remains consistent. An operator left behind. Survival against impossible odds. And a comeback that saved her team. Wright smiled. That's what makes it legendary. Not the details, but the principle. That's SEALs don't quit. He handed her a document. New training protocol based on your experience. Enhanced survival psychology curriculum, improved communication redundancy procedures, updated battlefield medicine for isolated operators. Your Christmas mission is changing how we train the next generation. Sarah reviewed the document, seeing her experience distilled into procedural language lessons codified into training objectives. This is good, she said quietly. Maybe something useful can come from it. Already has, Wright replied. 3 weeks ago, ASCAL was isolated during a mission in Africa. Enemy pursuit, lost communication, wounded. His team couldn't reach him. You know what he did? Sarah shook her head. He remembered your story. Stayed calm, used advanced survival techniques, turned the hunters into the hunted. Survived 3 days until extraction. When we debriefed him, he said he kept thinking, if Lieutenant Vance could survive Christmas in the desert.
I can survive this.
That evening, Sarah walked the beach near the training compound. Winter sun set over the Pacific, painting the water in shades of orange and gold. She thought about that night in the desert. The cold, the blood, the fear, the absolute determination to survive. She'd been abandoned, left for dead, given up on, and she'd refused to accept it. That refusal had defined her, had become legend, had changed training protocols, had inspired other operators. Her phone buzzed, Prophet checking in like he did every few weeks. Hey, how's training duty? Good. Told the Christmas story today. How'd they take it? Like candidates always do. Wide eyes, impossible to believe. Then I show them the scar, and they realize it's real. Prophet laughed. You're going to terrify them into excellence. That's the plan. Silence on the line. Then Prophet Sarah, I need to ask you something. Go ahead. That night when we left you, did you hate us? Sarah watched waves roll against sand, considering the question seriously. No. I understood. You made the only call possible. Saved 7 men by leaving 1. The math was brutal but correct. But you must have felt abandoned, betrayed, terrified, Sarah smiled. All of that. But I also felt determined, angry, motivated, Those emotions kept me alive. I'm still sorry it happened. Don't be. It taught me something valuable. That I'm capable of more than I knew. That when everything is stripped away, support backup, hope what remains is the core of who we are. And I learned I'm someone who doesn't quit. Another pause. Then Merry Christmas, Sarah. She checked her watch. December 25. 1 year exactly. Merry Christmas, Prophet. Sarah ended the call and continued walking. Snow was falling rare for the California coast, but not impossible. Small flakes drifting through beach air, melting before they touched ground. She'd been abandoned in desert snow. She'd survived. She'd returned. And now, watching snow fall on a peaceful beach, Sarah understood the real lesson of that night. Being left behind wasn't the worst thing that could happen. Not coming back was.